My name is Jeff Wamsley. I was born and raised here in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I am the creator, owner of the world's only Mothman Museum here on Main Street in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The Mothman story started here in Point Pleasant, West Virginia back in 1966. Two young couples that were riding around the outskirts of the town in a little area called the TNT area. TNT area during World War II is where they manufactured explosives for the war effort. But in the 60s, it had been abandoned, and it was sort of like a lover's lane. It's just where all the kids would go hang out and drag race and meet up with their friends and stuff like that. At about 11 o'clock that night, this was November 15th, 1966, they decided to head back into Point Pleasant, and as they were passing one of the old factory buildings there, the car's headlights hit what they thought was just a man standing in the road, and as they got closer, they noticed that the headlights hit it again, and they noticed two distinct red eyes. His red eyes were about the size of two baseballs. They saw the wings spread out on this, whatever this thing was, and it ran towards the old North Power Plant. They gathered their thoughts and decided that they probably needed to head back into town, and as they did, and they got onto Route 62, they noticed it standing in the field beside the highway, beside of a big billboard. Linda Scarberry, who was one of those people in the car, watched it fly straight up into the air, and they were in an old 57 Chevy Bel Air. They hit the straight stretch on Route 62, and she said whatever this thing was came over top of the car as they were going down the highway. They were a little spooked at this time and sped the car up to about 90 miles an hour. She said it would not get in front of the car, but flew over top of the car. And this was the first sighting here in the town. They went back and reported all of this to the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department then started an investigation. And within the next month or two, you had all sorts of people reporting the same thing. Some people thought it was a gigantic bird, like a big sandhill crane. Other people, like Linda, claimed that it looked like more of a man. You know, it had a shape of a man and stood like a man. So this was the beginning, and 55 years later, the mystery is still unsolved. A lot of different theories. The book has never been shut as far as the explanation as to what these people are seeing. I was young at the time when all this stuff started in 1966. I was about 5 or 6 years old. So when I got older, I heard my dad and different people talking about, the big bird, the Mothman sightings, and I picked up John Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, when I was like in the 8th grade, and kind of looked through the book and started looking at a lot of the names in that book, and I thought, well, I know some of these people. So that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. I realized that the Mothman story was just continuing to grow. I had a chain of record stores in the 80s and 90s, and I sold a few Mothman shirts, and I seen the interest. And then I was lucky enough to be able to interview some of those original witnesses for a couple books that that I've written that documents all the sightings and all the Mothman activity from the 60s and even up until now. And I decided to open the museum back in 2006, and the museum launched the Mothman Festival 2003, and it's just snowballed from there. You have video games out, you have movies, you have documentaries, you have stuffed animals. Mothman is part of the pop culture now. One of the main reasons that we created the museum and opened it was because I had amassed a large collection of archives and newspaper clippings. My dad had kept a lot of the Silver Bridge archives from the bridge disaster, and I came across a lot of the Mothman newspaper clippings. And another main reason was I acquired a large collection of movie props from the Mothman Prophecies movie, which came out in 2002. It starred Richard Gere. Those were donated to the museum from a private owner, and we have those on display. So a lot of people know the Mothman story from the movie, not the actual events. So when people come to the museum, they're going to see a lot of those movie props and stuff, and then that kind of piques their attention to some of the old newspaper clippings and archives and stuff like that. There's a lot of different quirky little things to know about the museum and Point Pleasant itself, but the museum attracts people from all over the world. We get people from Japan, Australia, Germany, and a lot of people from the United States. And people can come and decide for themselves, what really happened. People like to come in and spend hours looking through these archives and newspapers and things like that. So we just welcome anybody who wants to come and kind of investigate for themselves, Well, probably the main reason that I picked Mothman is because it happened in my hometown, I was never a big investigator going out looking for Bigfoot or, Mothman happened here. It actually happened. Those original witnesses lived 4 doors away from my family, so I knew all these people and I had something in common with them, Point Pleasant's a small town. Everybody knows each other. So rather than try to, look into something that happened in Seattle, Washington, I thought, this happened right under my nose, literally, The Mothman Museum is open year-round. The festival itself attracts 12 to 15,000 people. It's one of the biggest festivals in the state of West Virginia now. Live entertainment, guest speakers, celebrities show up. We have a 5K race. We do guided tours. It's just a really cool time to kind of bond and to network with people with the same interests and stuff. And the museum's a lot like that too. A lot of the people that come to the museum are all into the cryptids and the paranormal and things like that. So it's just a nice meeting place. Point Pleasant is a good area for people to. It's halfway, from the East Coast and a little longer for the West Coast. So it seems like it's a nice place to have a Mothman cryptid gathering, so to speak.